Welcome to Herald Now. I'm Ryan Bridge. It is Tuesday the 29th of July. Great to have your company this morning. Coming up on the show, those pesky surcharges on card payments are gonskis. But won't we just end up paying for them in another way? We'll ask that question this morning. The Minister's live. And an atmospheric river is dumping on the country right now. Nelson's top water scientist tells us what damage has been done and why any rain in the top of the south is bad news. It's called the greatest overland adventure on the planet. We meet the two Kiwis and their tiny car taking on the 16,000 kilometre Mongol Rally. Plus, 30,000 nurses are going on strike tomorrow. We'll have details, and Labour leader Chris Hipkins here after news at 7:30. First, here's Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
National and Labour appear to have found at least some common ground over incoming surcharge changes. The government's moving to ban surcharges on in-store card transactions by May next year. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon says the timeframe purely acknowledges the standard legislative process, but if they can go faster, they will. Labour leader Chris Hipkins says most Kiwis would like to see surcharges go, but there's still more work to be done to make sure it doesn't drive prices or disadvantage small businesses. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's defending increases to the pay of public board members. A cabinet document shows the top potential annual fee for chairs of governance boards is rising to more than $160,000, a jump from 2022's $90,000 limit. It's estimated members work about 30 days a year and chairs work about 50. Christopher Luxon says they want a competitive offering to attract good people. A 24-hour nurses' strike set for tomorrow is going ahead from 9 a.m. Bargaining between Health New Zealand and the nurses' organisation took place yesterday, with Health New Zealand saying it was committed to reaching an agreement and lifting the strike notice. But in a recent statement, the health agency says it's disappointed around 36,000 nurses, midwives and healthcare assistants will walk off the job for 24 hours tomorrow. It says it's estimated more than 4,000 planned procedures and specialist appointments will have to be postponed. Civil Defence is on standby in Nelson, Tasman for yet more heavy rain. Orange rain warnings are in effect for much of Nelson, Tasman and Marlborough, along with Auckland, the Coromandel, Bay of Plenty, Central North Island Mountains and Westland. Nelson, Tasman is expecting the heaviest rain from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with high tide and the strongest winds about midday. Tasman Mayor Tim King says lots of work has been done there since the last two storms hit, and he says it ranges from roads and rivers to protecting individual properties from further flooding. Donald Trump says Russia may force sanctions unless progress is made to end the war with Ukraine. The US president originally gave Vladimir Putin a 50-day deadline to end the war. He says he's been forced to reduce that to between 10 and 12 days.
I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
Meanwhile, an unconditional ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand has taken effect. Leaders in both countries agreed on the ceasefire after more than 30 people were killed in the conflict since late last week. The ceasefire took effect at 4 a.m. New Zealand time.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
In sport, Silver Ferns coach Dame Nolene Todua is happy for the ANZ Premiership's best shooter, Amelia Walmsley, to miss the series against South Africa in favour of tournament play at Netball's Youth World Cup. Wallabies lock rather Nick Frost is defending flanker Carlo Tizzano after accusations of trying to milk a ruck penalty at the end of the second rugby test defeat to the Lions. The Lancashire Counties investigating an incident in which a fan attending the fourth cricket test between England and India at Old Trafford was asked to cover up a Pakistani limited overs shirt.
So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out where the cost of living crisis is continuing. People are still finding it really hard to make ends meet. Can someone get the Beehive, please, somebody get them a press secretary who can understand a news cycle? Yesterday, we had a 10-minute sermon, that's the opposition's words, from the pulpit, courtesy of Nicola Willis and Christopher Luxon, about the cost of living crisis. They obviously know there's a problem, so they're trying to get a message out that they're doing something about it. Same day, we have nurses announcing they're going on strike. And by the way, the biggest increase that a nurse will get over several years, for a graduate nurse is 11% increase in pay. So on the same day you got all this happening, they come out surreptitiously, quite quiet, on the D-low you could say, with this. Up to 80% increases in pay for your board members and your board chairs on government agencies. Is that smart politics? Answer, no. It's probably the worst headline you could have at a time like this, which begs the question, why, because politics is about optics, why, if you're going to be announcing a 10-minute speech on celebrating your tax cuts and the cost of living, if that's going to be your focus, if you've also know you've got a nurses' strike coming tomorrow and the max increase you're offering is 11%, why, even secretly, publish this at up to 80% boosts for some of the wealthiest people in the country? Now, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm not saying we don't need to make the change, but the timing, come on, 7 after 5. The email address is on screen, Ryan at nzherald.co.nz. We would love to get your feedback on that this morning. Here is weather.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Good morning. It's wet and windy with nor'easterly strengthening as a couple of fronts head east across the country today. Many are sitting under watches and warnings, with Auckland upgraded to an orange heavy rain warning last night, in place till 10 p.m. Now, the place of most concern is still Tasman east and south of Motueka, but excluding Nelson City District. There is still a high chance of you being upgraded to a red warning with heavy rain through till 9 p.m. tonight. But not too much rain expected for the lower south, with it often cloudy today and with just showers. North or nor'easterlies will turn westerly for most tonight. Now, the heavy rain will be in the west and north of the island, easing much later this evening. Winds are strong everywhere, with gusty northerlies for Ashburton easing this evening. Wet and likely windy here, with strong wind watches in place from Taranaki to the Central Plateau, including inland Whanganui, plus a rain warning for Taranaki Maunga. Hawke's Bay, the only region not under a watch or warning here. Showers turn to rain with heavy falls for Bay of Plenty and Taupō, with gale nor'easterlies. And a pretty miserable day for the upper north. There's heavy falls with a risk of localised downpours not easing till late tonight, and gale nor'easters gusting 80 or 90 k's, also not easing till this evening.
And you're watching Herald Now. Great to have your company this morning, just gone 7 after 7. So the government has announced they are going to get rid of surcharges. This is the little extra bits that you pay when you go to the dairy, when you go to the supermarket, when you go to the service station, whatever it is. The government taking steps to outlaw the card fees that everybody loves to hate. Scott Simpson is the Commerce and Consumer Affairs Minister with us this morning. Minister, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
Good to have you on the show. What is to stop this? Because you listen to the Restaurant Association, and they say this morning that we will see an increase in general prices, that the retailers, particularly the restaurateurs, won't be able to wear the cost of this, so they're just going to pass that cost on to the consumer in the form of higher prices. I think we've lost the Minister there. We'll come back to him in just a few moments' time. We're also going to talk to the Retail NZ for their view this morning on this pass-on effect. Scott Simpson back. Minister, welcome back.
Hi.
So, what's to stop, as the Restaurant Association has claimed, this cost just being passed on in the form of higher prices, pushing up inflation potentially?
Well, the vast majority of businesses already incorporate the surcharge fees into their business. What's really interesting is that when bans of this sort have been put in place in places like the United Kingdom and in the European Union, that hasn't been the experience. Look, businesses are competitive, but what I'm concerned about is overcharging with these surcharges. So what we know now is that the Commerce Commission estimates New Zealanders pay about $150 million a year in these surcharges, and the ComCom suggests that up to about $65 million $100 of that could in fact be overcharging. So you don't know, Ryan, when you get charged 2.5% or 3% when you're buying your muffin and your cup of coffee, you don't know whether the actual charge is just 1% or whether the retailer's taking that as just extra margin.
Right. So how will you know that we're getting the benefit of the extra 65 million we're supposed to get once this is done?
Well, customers will know, because what happens will be that the price on the shelf will be the price that people pay at the till.
But will the price,
but
Minister, will the price on the shelf be more than it was before you banned the charges?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. But
isn't that a crucial question?
That hasn't been the experience in other jurisdictions where surcharges have been banned.
Okay. What about, this is from the Restaurant Association specifically, they say they're quite miffed with you guys, with government, for consultation on this. We've actively engaged with the government to outline the financial pressures faced by hospitality businesses due to bank-imposed fees. While we welcome consumer-focused changes, we are concerned about the lack of consultation on this particular announcement. Do you have a response to that, Minister?
Well, yes, the impact of this is not due to take place until May of next year, so a very long lead-in time to allow for a full legislative program that will allow plenty of input and plenty of opportunity. That's why we signalled it yesterday, and that's why we've given the whole country and customers and businesses plenty of time to be thinking about, talking about it and actioning it where is necessary.
All right. What's your best, for people watching at home, what's your best estimate on how much it will save each consumer per year or per week or whatever? What's the number you've been advised?
Well, we think that probably something in the order of $150 million for New Zealand consumers. So that's not an insignificant amount of money, and I think that most customers will be very happy to see an end to the horrible little curled up, handwritten, coffee-stained stickers on the EFTPOS machine at the point of sale. Yes. I think they'll be pleased to see them gone.
$150 million, you've been advised that will be fully passed through.
No, we think that'll be the saving. That we
to
think
who?
At the moment,
to the businesses.
Tell us that $150 million is being charged, so that will be absorbed into the retail system.
Right. In other words, higher prices.
Well, over the entire New Zealand commercial marketplace, that's a very small amount. And as I say, in other jurisdictions where these bans have been put in place, that hasn't been the case. They haven't noticed any increase in pricing.
Okay, all right, we'll leave it there, Minister. Thank you. Scott Simpson, Commerce and Consumer Affairs Minister. It is 11 minutes after 7. We'd love your thoughts this morning. Ryan at nzherald.co.nz. Do you think businesses will pass if they're not able to charge the fees, whether they'll just increase their prices? What's your feeling on that one? Ryan at nzherald.co.nz. Listening into that, Minister, was Anne-Marie Johnson, Advocacy Manager at Retail NZ. Anne-Marie, good morning.
Morena.
Do you think who's ripping who off here? Is someone having a laugh with these fees, and do they need to be banned?
Surcharges have been a long point of contention. They're very complex for our retailers to understand what they cost. We know the money is going through to the banks and the card companies, and it's hard to see that those fees aren't going to increase, because people are going to be moving away now from EFTPOS and those more free transactions. So the ultimate outcome of this is that the banks and the credit card companies are going to actually get more fees, even if they're not labelled on the tills.
So explain to me how that's going to work. How will the banks make more money out of this?
Well, because the Minister himself has said that he expects that fewer people will be using EFTPOS in the future. More people are going to switch on to the contactless payments, the credit card payments, and that will mean that there are more fees. The fees are still going to be collected, even if there's not a label on the EFTPOS machine at the till. So we think that those fees are just going to be going straight back to the banks and the credit card companies, and the retailer's going to be stuck in the middle.
And we will be, as consumers, the losers at the end of the chain. I mean, Does anyone actually think what he's saying is true, Anne-Marie, that the retailers won't just up their prices?
Well, we know that around 30% of retailers are really struggling at the moment and don't know that they're going to be able to survive the next 6 months. They're, like us all, they're facing increasing insurance costs, increasing rate costs, and so it seems a bit nonsensical to just expect that they will be able to absorb this extra cost. It's a very competitive market. They do need to be able to attract customers, but they also need to be able to make money at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point, Anne-Marie. Appreciate your time. Anne-Marie Johnson, Advocacy Manager at Retail NZ, 14 minutes after 7. The other thing that the Minister pointed out to us this morning is, we're paying $150 million in surcharges every year. This includes excessive surcharges of $65 million. So does that mean that the rest of it, the balance, is justified? And if that's the case, then why are we stopping them from charging a fee that is clearly justified to be charged in the first place, if that's what the banks are charging them? Ryan at nzherald.co.nz is the email address. Donald Trump reckons Putin now has less than 2 weeks to end the war in Ukraine. Speaking after meetings in Scotland with the British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, Trump had this message for Putin.
Make a deal. It's too many people are dying.
So what is your new deadline? What can
I'm
we
going to
expect?
make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. There's no reason in waiting. There's no reason in waiting. It's 50 days. I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
You'll remember, of course, 2 weeks ago, Trump was threatening very severe tariffs on Russia and its trading partners if a deal wasn't done in 50 days. Now, apparently, it's 10 or 12. Well, he's not quite sure which of those yet. It has gone 7:15 now. The Tasman district has already set up emergency operations centres, this in preparation for yet another wet weather system this week. In fact, starting this morning, the region's been in clean-up mode after last month's downpour and damage, which is anticipated to cost millions in repairs. Entire rivers changed course during the last flood, with hydrologists warning they may be hard to predict this time around. Tasman's lead hydrologist, Matt McLaren, is with us this morning. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
First of all, how's the weather been? Because it was meant to start and get heavy for you guys early this morning, right?
Yeah, well, there's been sort of persistent rain overnight, fairly light, and it's continuing at the moment, around about 50 millimetres so far.
Right, let's get down to business. Some of these rivers that changed courses, it was particularly the upper Motueka area, where you had rivers completely changing course during the flooding.
Yep.
What happens with them? How much rain does it take to fill them? Do you know how they will behave in rain events, given they're sort of newly formed?
Well, I guess in the last 2 weeks there's been a lot of work done in the upper Motueka to try and repair some of that. But yeah, exactly. We don't know is the short answer, and therefore any rain is of concern. This is at the low end of rainfall expectations, but with the uncertainty of how the rivers will behave, we're taking a pretty cautious approach.
What does that mean? What does the cautious approach look like?
Well, the preparations that we've put in place in the emergency management space are probably the most intense that I've seen. So it's really being able to respond quickly if we get unexpected circumstances, which is what we're preparing for.
And if you're a farmer or you've got a piece of land and there's now a river running somewhere that it never used to, does that mean that it probably once would have flowed through there, or is this completely new riverbeds being carved out before our eyes?
No, well, I mean, this will be historic river channels that, over a long period, the river will have moved right across the valley floor. And I guess it's just in modern times we've kind of claimed this space alongside the river, and when you live right next to a large river, this can happen,
yeah,
and will happen.
Okay, good to know. Appreciate that. Thanks for your time, Matt. Matt McLaren, who's Tasman lead hydrologist. Time now is 18 after 7. Next, more than 30,000 nurses and midwives are going on strike tomorrow. We have the Nurses Union on the show next. And then later, Labor leader Chris Hipkins on why he reckons we should change MMP. That's after 7:30.
Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Still can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Still can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Still can't get enough. Yeah, do what I want. Yeah, can't get enough. Still can't get enough.
When building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GJs because of the good quality that they always provide us.
They help us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
After 20 seasons on the footy field, it's fair to say I know a thing or two about resilience. Digging deep when the going gets tough. Just like Kaiwaka wet weather gear. Kaiwaka's been in the game for 200 seasons. 50 years of facing up to the elements, getting the job done and coming back for more. And that's guaranteed for a lifetime. Kaiwaka, designed to perform, made to outlast.
Of course we can set up the new smart TV for you. We could also put it on the wall for you too.
Want to keep your family safe online? We've got tips for that.
Yeah, I can show you how to use the AI on your laptop.
Teaching the kids to do laundry? These washing machines auto-dispense the perfect amount of detergent, making it super easy to learn.
Wait, what's a Ninja Creamy?
Got tech questions? We've got answers. With 66 stores nationwide, your tech experts ready to help.
Welcome back. It is 21 minutes after 7. It will run from 9 o'clock tomorrow morning until 9 o'clock on Thursday. This is a strike of the Nurses Union. 36,000 nurses and midwives going on strike for the 24-hour period. Their talks, negotiations with Health New Zealand have broken down. It's staff, not only the amount of staff, but what they're being paid. All Health New Zealand sites will be affected. Anne Daniels, president of the nurses organisation, is with me now. Anne, good morning. Good to have you here. Can you tell us how close or the average offer, is it above inflation?
No, it's not. Not in the slightest. And there's just not enough in the offer to keep our nurses in New Zealand. They're fleeing over to Australia in droves.
And so what is the difference? What's the average increase they're offering you versus what you want?
Well, the original offer was between 0 and 1%. And as we know, inflation is 2.7% right now, but it was much higher. And the whole nation knows how bad the cost of living is impacting on their ability to pay their mortgages, their rent, and put food on the table, let alone petrol in the car to get to work. So we need to have an offer that is going to actually keep nurses in New Zealand and also encourage people to take up nursing as a career.
Right, so more than 2.7% basically is what you're saying. What about your graduate?
Absolutely.
Your graduate nurses? Health New Zealand says 75 grand, they'll get an extra 11% by the middle of next year. That doesn't sound too bad.
No, it doesn't sound too bad, but the fact is that our new graduates are not being hired. And nearly 55% of the last cohort of new graduates were not hired, don't have jobs, and so are looking to Australia and overseas for jobs to pay off their loans and have the ability to live.
All of these things aren't making any sense to me, Anne, because you're saying the pay is too low and we need to attract more people, while at the same time, the graduates, there's not enough work for them, and so they're going overseas because we're not hiring. So how does all this shake down?
That's not correct, Ryan. There is a huge amount of work. We know this for a fact because the number of people who are trying to access hospital care through our EDs has risen by about 25% in the last year alone. The fact is that Te Whatu Ora is not hiring because they're putting budget before people. And that means not only the nurses that need to be hired, but also the people that we care for. And ultimately, it is the patients that are suffering.
Right.
This is why we're striking.
Okay, so Anne, what is it? You said that there's been a 25% increase in patient admissions over the last year. Is that right? What's the increase in?
No, accessing the hospitals. So because people are getting sicker because they cannot actually access GP preventative and early intervention care, they're ending up in the hospital. The numbers of people on waiting lists have risen by a huge amount. 68,000 people are on the waiting list. This is the reason why there are huge pressures on the hospitals, and this is why we need more nurses.
Right. So we need more, we're just not hiring them. That's what you're saying. I mean, Health New Zealand, this is the thing that gets me. Every time the union and the department have a go at each other, you come out and say one thing, they come out and say the opposite. It's black and white, and no one knows who's telling the truth. I mean, they're saying actually our replacement rates for nurses are the best it's been in years. Turnover in the nursing workforce decreased from 14% in December 2022 to 8.6% December 2024, which is good. They're saying that the average wage now for a registered nurse is more than $125,000, including penal rates and overtime, etc. It's a little confusing, to be honest, sitting in the middle of all this, Anne.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation there that you've just highlighted. The fact is that the $125,000 average pay means that a nurse has to work full-time night shift to actually get those kind of pay rates, and it's just not correct at all. Most nurses work part-time.
It is correct, it's just it comes with caveats. That's what you're saying.
Huge caveats. Not all nurses work night shift. Not all nurses work full-time. In fact, most nurses don't work full-time because the huge workloads that we have to endure these days are absolutely exhausting. And so nurses are deliberately going part-time to try and get some rest. They put everything they have every day that they go to work because they actually care about the patients. That's the job that they do. So in terms of the numbers of nurses, the Te Whatu Ora own data actually states very, very clearly that nearly 50% of shifts are understaffed right throughout the nation. So their own data is saying that they are understaffed. So there's a lot of conflation and misinformation that is going out there to try and actually cover up their own facts. The fact is that we're going on strike for safe staffing. We need more nurses to provide good care where and when it's needed, and we need it now. And we've been fighting for this for a very long time. And it's time that Health New Zealand, Te Whatu Ora, actually did the right thing and had the ethical backbone to actually keep our nurses here, pay us what we're worth, and also ensure patient safety by having enough nurses where and when they're needed.
All right, Anne, we appreciate you clearing that up for us this morning. That's Anne Daniels, President of the Nurses Organisation, and that strike will be taking place and affecting all sites that have Health New Zealand, Te Whatu Ora staff working there tomorrow from 9 a.m. for 24 hours. Nearly 4,500 surgeries and specialist appointments will be affected by this. So do check in with the hospital if you're concerned about an appointment you might have. Life-preserving services will continue, they say. Now, if you've got something to say about this today, flick us an email, ryan@nzherald.co.nz. Who's getting the raw end of the deal here? Is it the nurses? ryan@nzherald.co.nz is the email address. It may be a case of last in, first out for many young workers. According to new job data, young Kiwis are increasingly jobless, with employment rates down 10% year on year. Te Tahi Youth offers counselling, mentorship and employment support for young people. They've been on the ground witnessing firsthand what's behind the youth employment problem. Simon Britton is Te Tahi Youth Employment Team Leader with us this morning. Hey, Simon.
Kia ora, Atamario.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. So, why aren't young people getting jobs? Is it because they're not skilled, or is it because the market's tough?
It's a tough time in the market. That really is the short answer. We know our young people who are moving into the workforce, don't have as much experience as those who have been around a bit longer. That's always been the case. But what's different at the moment is the market conditions are really especially challenging, and we're seeing lower numbers of advertised jobs, more people competing for those jobs as well, and that just makes it really, really difficult for the ones that are new to the workforce.
What can young people do to stand out then? Because they don't have the experience, they haven't got the exhaustive CV, the man hours. What can they do?
Well, what we do down here in Otautahi is we run a youth employment program that's focused on 15 to 24-year-olds, and particularly young people that might need just a little bit more support in that journey. And we focus on a few things with that, including a real strong look at the essential employability skills, which are things like positive attitude, communication, focus, self-management, etc. Quick internet search. Any young person, I'd encourage you to look those up and look at what you can do to work on those. We also do the classic kind of things that an employment program will, like look at polishing up someone's CV, help them in interview preparation, take them to workplace visits, just so that they are the most prepared they can be as they follow their path in that journey.
Okay, so get a CV and then turn up and do some interviews. Appreciate your time this morning, Simon. Simon Britton, Te Tahi Youth Employment Team Lead. It is 7:30. Here's Neva with headlines.
Herald NOW News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
National and Labour appear to have found at least some common ground over incoming surcharge changes. The government's moving to ban surcharges on in-store card transactions by May next year. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon says the timeframe purely acknowledges the standard legislative process, but if they can go faster, they will. Labour leader Chris Hipkins says most Kiwis would like to see surcharges go, but there's still more work to be done to make sure it doesn't drive prices or disadvantage small businesses. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's defending increases to the pay of public board members. A cabinet document shows the top potential annual fee for chairs of governance boards is rising to more than $160,000, a jump from 2022's $90,000 limit. It's estimated members work about 30 days a year and chairs work about 50. Christopher Luxon says they want a competitive offering to attract good people. A 24-hour nurses' strike set for tomorrow is going ahead from 9 a.m. Bargaining between Health New Zealand and the nurses' organisation took place yesterday, with Health New Zealand saying it was committed to reaching an agreement and lifting the strike notice. But in a recent statement, the health agency says it's disappointed around 36,000 nurses, midwives and healthcare assistants will walk off the job for 24 hours tomorrow. It says it's estimated more than 4,000 planned procedures and specialist appointments will have to be postponed. Civil Defence is on standby in Nelson, Tasman for yet more heavy rain. Orange rain warnings are in effect for much of Nelson, Tasman and Marlborough, along with Auckland, the Coromandel, Bay of Plenty, Central North Island Mountains and Westland. Nelson, Tasman is expecting the heaviest rain from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with high tide and the strongest winds about midday. Tasman Mayor Tim King says lots of work has been done there since the last two storms hit, and he says it ranges from roads and rivers to protecting individual properties from further flooding. Donald Trump says Russia may force sanctions unless progress is made to end the war with Ukraine. The US president originally gave Vladimir Putin a 50-day deadline to end the war. He says he's been forced to reduce that to between 10 and 12 days.
I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
Meanwhile, an unconditional ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand has taken effect. Leaders in both countries agreed on the ceasefire after more than 30 people were killed in the conflict since late last week. The ceasefire took effect at 4 a.m. New Zealand time.
Herald NOW Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Silver Ferns coach Dame Nolene Todua is happy for the ANZ Premiership's best shooter. Amelia Walmsley to miss the series against South Africa in favour of tournament play at Netball's Youth World Cup. Wallabies lock-rather Nick Frost is defending flanker Carlo Tizzano after accusations of trying to milk a ruck penalty at the end of the second rugby test defeat to the Lions. The Lancashire Counties investigating an incident in which a fan attending the fourth cricket test between England and India at Old Trafford was asked to cover up a Pakistani limited overs shirt.
You're watching Herald Now. We're going to get to Judith Collins on a couple of things, including space. Why are we rushing the space legislation through Parliament? We'll talk to her about that after 8 o'clock. And also, because she's state services, we'll ask her, or public service, whatever they're calling it now, we'll ask her about those increases, up to 80% for board members, government agency boards, whether you're a member or whether you are chief executive of a board or an agency, you will get a pay increase. At least the guidelines have been upped, which you'd have to say would mean that eventually, when it comes time to renew contracts, there will be a bit of a pay bump for them to keep them competitive. We'll talk to Judith Collins about that after 8. And Labour leader Chris Hipkins here in a few moments' time. In southern Europe, they're experiencing an extreme heat wave. You might have heard about this, but have a look. Turkey hit a record 50 degrees Celsius at the weekend, 50. In Greece, the temperature is getting up over 40 now, and strong winds fanning wildfires, forcing thousands of people to leave their homes. These pictures are from the island of Evia, where a fire destroyed a village, killing thousands of farm animals in the process. Forecasters reckon the winds will die down from today, but temperatures will remain high. And back home, let's check in on our weather.
Herald Now weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Good morning. It's wet and windy with nor'easterly strengthening as a couple of fronts head east across the country today. Many are sitting under watches and warnings, with Auckland upgraded to an orange heavy rain warning last night in place till 10 p.m. Now, the place of most concern is still Tasman east and south of Motueka, but excluding Nelson City District. There is still a high chance of you being upgraded to a red warning with heavy rains through till 9 p.m. tonight. But not too much rain expected for the lower south, with it often cloudy today and with just showers. North or nor'easterlies will turn westerly for most tonight. Now, the heavy rain will be in the west and north of the island, easing much later this evening. Winds are strong everywhere, with gusty northerlies for Ashburton easing this evening. Wet and likely windy here, with strong wind watches in place from Taranaki to the Central Plateau, including inland Whanganui, plus a rain warning for Taranaki Maunga. Hawke's Bay, the only region not under a watch or warning here. Showers turn to rain with heavy falls for Bay of Plenty and Taupō with gale nor'easterlies. And a pretty miserable day for the upper north. There's heavy falls with a risk of localised downpours not easing till late tonight, and gale nor'easters gusting 80 or 90 k's, also not easing till this evening.
You're watching Herald Now, 24 away from 8. Rich pickings for Chris Hipkins and the Labour Party this week, because the government has, on the one hand, got a fight with the unions and the nurses on their hands, this over pay increases. The nurses have just told us they're being offered less than 1%, which is obviously less than the rate of inflation. Meantime, you've got the government announcing an increase. If you're the chair on a board, on a governing board of a government agency, your max salary, and you could end up doing 50 days max per year, I should say, if you're the chair of a governance board. Anyway, their max pay has gone from 90 grand to 160,000. Guidelines issued by the government and sort of snuck in there yesterday before the Prime Minister's press conference. Labour leader Chris Hipkins joins me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Geez, it's not a great look, is it? Did you know this was happening? Did you know this was going to happen? And is there a need to increase the governance board pay bands by so much?
No, I wasn't aware that this was going to happen. And in fact, yesterday you had the Prime Minister saying the cost of living is all under control because people's wages are growing faster than inflation. And yet, if you're a nurse or you're a teacher employed by the government, the pay offer that's on the table is significantly less than inflation. And basically, it's a pay cut in real terms for our teachers, our nurses and others working in really important public sector jobs. In the meantime, they're saying that those people in the public service or in the public sector who earn the most, the people who are running the joint, on those governing boards, can get massive pay rises of up to, I think it's 80%. I think it just shows how out of touch they are with the day-to-day reality of the vast bulk of New Zealanders. This shouldn't be their first priority. We did increase the allowable amount for board directors by about 10%, I think. They've gone up to about 80%. I just don't think there's any justification for that in the current economic climate.
They say you need to make sure that you're attracting top talent, key talent, in a competitive environment with the private sector, and our salaries for board members haven't kept pace with the private sector, so we have to do something about that. Otherwise you end up with, I don't know, numpties running billion-dollar organisations.
Well, look, that simply doesn't wash. We've actually got an exodus of skilled people, who actually do the work, leaving to go to Australia or to further afield. Surely that should be the focus for where we want to put extra money for pay increases, not the people who sit around the board table. We actually need the workers to stay in New Zealand, and that's something that the current government are making worse. They're seeing almost record numbers of people giving up on this government and voting with their feet and leaving.
I don't disagree with you. It's terrible what's happening, and it's hollowing out a skilled workforce, particularly construction. I guess the question for you is, what would you do actually differently to stop this from happening? And you're not really being specific with your policy, so it's hard for anyone to kind of take you seriously. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, look, I mean, I know the National Party desperately wants to have Labour Party policy that they can attack because their own policies are all turning to custard and they prefer not to talk about them. But the reality is,
at least they've
even
got
if
some.
I announced a whole lot of policy, but even if I announced a whole lot of policy today, Ryan, there's not going to be an election until towards the end of next year. And I mean, assuming the government doesn't collapse, that's always a possibility. I mean, it's the most unstable government we've seen in a long time. But the reality is, Christopher Luxon gets out of bed every morning with the power to do things that make New Zealanders' lives easier. That unfortunately is not a position that I'm in at the moment as leader of the opposition. It's time the government started accepting responsibility for the consequences of their own actions. I mean, he can swear and curse about me all he likes. The reality is, I'm not the one running the country at the moment, he is.
No.
And it's time that Christopher Luxon started accepting responsibility for what he's inflicting on the country.
Where did they, because I've seen leaders of political parties do this before, where you save you save yourself till the election period. But this is quite an extreme version of that, I think, what you're doing, Chris. Where's this come from? Is this inspired by a particular campaign or a leader that you have been following?
No, absolutely not. Look, it is partly driven by the uncertainty that we face at the moment. What I've said really clearly is I don't want to be in a position like the National Party was in the last term, where they announced a whole lot of policies which they'd already jettisoned by the time they got to the election campaign. Remember, the first policy the National Party announced after the 2020 election was that they were going to spend billions of dollars building purpose-built managed isolation and quarantine facilities. That was their main policy. How did that pan out? A lot can change. And at the moment, a lot is changing on a daily basis. And I want to be absolutely certain that the promises that I put before New Zealanders at the next election are ones that I know I can deliver on. Let me put my hand up here and say all political parties in New Zealand have made promises in the past that they haven't then been able to keep in government. And I think Kiwis have had enough of that. And I don't want to fall into that trap again.
That's fair. And that includes your government, right? In fact, you were probably the...
I've said all parties.
Yeah.
I've said all parties and all governments. But I think rushing out policies now to respond to the issues that we're facing now potentially means a year down the track we're saying actually there's some other issues that are more important.
Fair enough. Will you give prisoners the right to vote again?
It wouldn't be the top of my priority list, but I am concerned about what the government are doing that could potentially disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of law-abiding New Zealanders.
But not enough to
who
undo
simply
it.
have fallen off the electoral roll. Who've simply fallen off the electoral roll because they've moved house. And yes, we will make sure that they have their right to vote restored if this government proceeds with the change they're proposing to take.
But not the
away.
prisoners. Not the prisoners. Just the...
we haven't specifically discussed that. It's actually not the top of my list. I'm actually more worried about the fact that people who've moved house could find their votes get invalidated without them even knowing about it.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a worry too, to be honest with you. Appreciate your time this morning, Chris. Thanks for coming on. Labour leader Chris Hipkins. It is 18 minutes away from 8 o'clock. Coming up, foreign agents trying to use our space infrastructure It's all a bit James Bond, but the Minister for Space is taking it very seriously. Judith Collins after 8 o'clock news. Next, Garth Bray is in to talk business, thanks to our partners 2 Degrees.
Of course we can set up the new smart TV for you. We could also put it on the wall for you too.
Want to keep your family safe online? We've got tips for that.
Yeah, I can show you how to use the AI on your laptop.
Teaching the kids to do laundry? These washing machines auto-dispense the perfect amount of detergent, making it super easy to learn.
Wait, what's a Ninja Creamy?
Got tech questions? We've got answers. With 66 stores nationwide, your tech experts ready to help.
After 20 seasons on the footy field, it's fair to say I know a thing or two about resilience, just like Kaiwaka wet weather gear. Digging deep when the going gets tough. Kaiwaka, designed to perform, made to outlast.
We've done few subdivisions with GJ Gardner, and from the resource consent to the building consent, getting the council permits and stuff, always GJ Gardners are ahead and helping us out through the whole process, and it was so easy working with GJ.
Welcome back, 7:45, time to talk business, thanks to our partners 2 Degrees. Will rising unemployment nudge the Reserve Bank to cut interest rates? Garth Bray, Business Desk here. Hey Garth, good morning.
Hey Ryan.
So we're expecting next month, we've got another Reserve Bank monetary policy review. We had employment numbers out yesterday, sort of pointing to some softening in Q2.
Yeah, it was a whisker up, 0.1, and year on year down 1.2, I think was what we were looking at. And that 0.1 was about a 0.1 increase, I think, in May, and that was revised down to a negative 0.1. So basically these numbers get looked at, last month's numbers get looked at when the current numbers come out. Increasingly they get nudged back, and that's led some economists, the BNZ's economists, for example, to say, look, we are expecting unemployment to hit about 5.3% in the June quarter. It was about 5.1 in May. All that suggests that fewer jobs. I mean, I think we had the numbers out yesterday, 27,850 fewer jobs than there were this time last year, most of them in construction. Fewer jobs, fewer people spending, less inflation, less inflationary pressure, less reason for the Reserve Bank to be worried about that and to maybe think, okay, we can put the foot on the gas gently. And expectations that that might flow through to an October cut as well, if those numbers actually bear out. Yeah.
I think they just need to go double whammy, straight up the guts.
Plant the boot.
Yeah, plant the boot, exactly. It feels like, you know, if ever there was a time, it's now. Hey, also Deval, we've got an accountant in trouble just related to the Deval investigation.
Yeah, this is this big property firm we've talked about a few times, the developers who were put into statutory management by the government nearly a year ago. And at the Chartered Accountants Institute, there was a disciplinary tribunal down in Wellington yesterday where an accountant that worked for Deval, Waikato accountant, can't be named until later today, has to break the bad news that pleaded guilty to conduct unbecoming and discrediting the profession, basically for refusing to take orders from the statutory managers that were put in place and continuing to supply information to some of the shareholders, dealing with one of the founders, and basically putting information out there which the tribunal evidence suggested was giving people who had put money into this business an unfair picture or an unclear picture that the business was solvent. They didn't give the complete picture that was the charge. And that's a serious situation, obviously, and that's left the statutory managers took this complaint and they're looking at, you know, it could be like a $30,000, $15,000 fine, but it also just highlights how unusual this was. This is pretty atypical for someone to be pinged in this way.
Yeah. Now, looking ahead, we've got some jobs data. We've got more jobs data, Aussie workforce participation today, and US non-farm payrolls Friday.
Yeah, and there's something as well called the JOLTS, the Job Openings and Labour turnover, I think it is, which is another study out of the US today. So lots of jobs numbers around and lots of indications about how, as a lagging indicator, jobs are responding to those other indicators that we're seeing in terms of tariffs, price rises and so on.
All right.
We need to look at.
There is indeed. Thank you very much for that, Garth. Good to see you. Garth Bray from Business Desk, and we talk business every day thanks to our partners 2 Degrees. It's just gone 12 to 8. After 8, cameras in restaurant toilets. Yes, it's illegal. But where do you draw the line? Next, we're talking tech, probably when they start filming your bits. I would imagine there's a pretty clear line to me. Next, we're talking tech. Today, New Zealand's role in Tesla's self-driving cars, thanks to our partners Noel Lemming.
Are you considering a DIY kitchen, but just not sure if you can do it? Well, it's not as hard as you think. With You Do It DIY Kitchens, you're in safe hands. And the customer support team really know their stuff. After all, they design and manufacture everything here in New Zealand. You do it, and you save money. So choose You Do It, the affordable DIY Kiwi kitchen with a great reputation. Visit newsroom.co.nz.
A lot of radio shows like to say they're with you in the morning.
Here at The Hits, we like to go the extra mile.
Not all of us get to experience this.
Come on, you're running late.
It's going to be a great day today, babes. I can feel it. Spit. You see, when we say we're with you, we actually mean it.
Oh, don't forget Sarah, who's got social netball tonight. And Mark's working late again.
Jono and Ben with you in the morning and anytime on iHeartRadio. On The Hits.
I'm Hayden Scott and I'm a knife maker. I make knives from my workshop at home in West Auckland. Here in my previous life I was a chef, did that for 25 years, but I had this knife making thing that I was doing and had been doing for some time, and so that transition from finishing that 25-year career and taking the plunge into full-time knife maker, I had been building up to that, but I still had to take a leap.
Ah, here she is. How's the business going?
Good, actually. We just switched to 2 Degrees. Well, we tested the networks and couldn't see any difference, but 2 Degrees has the most satisfied customers. With Flex, we get instant control of phone plans, data usage, and cost centre reporting. And they're the fastest growing business network.
Can I have what she's having?
Welcome back. Donald Trump is now saying Russia has 10 or 12 days to agree to a ceasefire to end its war with Ukraine. He had originally given 50 days, threatening very severe tariffs on Russia and its key trading partners, including China. On ZB's Early Edition this morning, I was joined by US correspondent Tony Waterman from Feature Story News. I started off by asking, is anyone actually listening and taking these threats seriously?
I mean, the president has been for months now giving a 2-week deadline to the Kremlin. So when the 50-day deadline was announced earlier this month, everybody said that is an extremely long runway for Russia, and everybody kind of shrugged it off. So whether or not we see anything in the next 10 to 12 days, is really up to Putin at this point. We haven't heard anything, any sort of response from the Kremlin to this latest move by Trump. But Dmitry Medvedev, who is the former Russian president, said on social media that Trump's playing the ultimatum game with Russia, but that Trump should remember Russia isn't Israel, that it's not Iran, and that each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but a war with his own country. So he's implying, of course, that these types of games could lead to a war between the United States and Russia. But the president earlier today repeated what has now become sort of his common refrain, saying that he's disappointed in Putin for not ending this war. He feels as if he's been strung along, that the Russian president has signaled that he would take these peace negotiations seriously, and then is bombing the smithereens out of, Ukraine the following day. So 10 to 12 days, he left the door open for more negotiations, saying that a deal could be reached. But you're right, with these secondary tariffs that he's threatening if this deadline is not met, 100% tariffs on any country that buys Russian energy, that is going to impact not just China, but also Russia, who are huge consumers of Russian oil.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? Because on the same day, you've got him saying, I'll move the deadline for China on tariffs and extend that This is their more substantive trade talks. You've also got him saying, I'll reduce the deadline on Russia, and that could potentially bring in even bigger tariffs for the likes of China.
Yeah, I mean, with this trade war that the president kicked off in April and then paused and is now scrambling to make all of these trade negotiations, one of the countries that was not included, almost the only country that was not included, was Russia itself. It somehow dodged the trade war bullet when he made the announcement on Liberation Day. But you're right, they could be now facing not just more sanctions, which the president talked about today, didn't give details, but said he would impose more sanctions, but also a 100% tariff on countries that trade with Russia. That's on goods coming into the United States, so it's American public, again, that will be paying the price for that. But they could be at the losing end of the stick. But again, for months and months and months now, Donald Trump has given Russia 2 weeks to come to the negotiating table to take this seriously. And at this point, Russia just seems to be shrugging that threat off.
That was US correspondent Tony Waterman on News Talk ZB earlier. Time to talk tech, thanks to our partners Noel Leeming. We've got lots more self-driving cars around the world, but there's a problem for us Kiwis. They're mostly left-hand drive, and we need, of course, right-hand ones. This could all soon change as Tesla gears up to deliver semi-autonomous features to all vehicles across Australia and New Zealand. Paul Spain is the CEO of Gorilla Technology and joins us now. Hey, Paul.
Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning. Good to see you. So, what's the situation with Tesla? What are they going to do here?
Well, we've seen news coming through from their head of vehicles in Australia and New Zealand and saying there are no more regulatory challenges to them launching those capabilities in New Zealand and Australia. So that puts us at the front of the queue. They say they're very near the end of their preparations and testing to launch in the New Zealand market in Australia. They've showed off some videos, so this is actually happening. The technology works, and we've heard from a bunch of Kiwis, myself included, who have been up to the US. They've sat in these Teslas that'll drive them around the place, but customers down under who have been promised this capability for now 5+ years have not had access to what they paid for. So this could be the big change.
Right. And this is legal in New Zealand to do?
That's what they're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're not talking about go and make a cup of tea in the back seat. You still sit there and kind of guide it, do you?
That's sort of the current iteration of the technology. As you are responsible, you still have to sit behind the wheel. You've got to basically make sure that what the car does is safe and take over if it's doing anything else. Although Tesla are saying that possibly as soon as the end of this year, that in the US, that you would be able to, if you're a Tesla owner, be able to not pay attention anymore. But that again, that's going to have some legal implications as well, right?
If you hit someone and kill them, who's responsible? I mean, it's got to be you, doesn't it? You can't say, well, Elon Musk, did a boo-boo with the programming. Can you?
Well, I think this is where we're going to have to get some clarity. At the moment, the Tesla are saying, look, you're fully responsible, and that's right. But we eventually have to get to a point where you can trust the technology. And the stats that we're seeing out of the US suggest that this type of technology does make driving safer. And of course, here in New Zealand, we had 288 lives lost last year on the road. And so if this can move that forward, then all the better. But I think we've got to step very cautiously in terms of moving to a position where we would actually take our eyes off the road.
Be great for drinking at the pub in the country, wouldn't it? I mean, to be able to get home without having to call an Uber. Well, there's no Ubers. But without a taxi or a taxi van, even worse from the pub, in your own car.
Yeah, look, I think that we probably can all imagine scenarios where this would just be, so perfect, right? And it's just it's that waiting game. Now, the flip side to this is that Tesla and Musk have made many, many promises in the past, and New Zealand customers have been kept waiting. So
I wouldn't completely hold my breath. I see, some are suggesting that August is the date that this technology will turn on. Others are waiting and seeing, and we don't have a big announcement from Tesla HQ on this front.
Interesting, because the other thing is they've now got those cameras everywhere where you're at the traffic lights or whatever, and if you're on your phone and they capture you, but then if you don't need to be steering, can you go on your phone? I suppose no, legally you wouldn't, because you still need to concentrate.
At this point in time.
Yeah, okay. All right, it's all very confusing. World's upside down. Paul, appreciate you coming on this morning as always. Paul Spain, Chief Executive at Gorilla Technology. And we talk tech every Tuesday, thanks to our partners, Noel Leeming. Now, more from Donald Trump's visit to Scotland. He was asked today about the Epstein files, the story that just will not go away, which are, of course, rumoured information about Trump included in them, and which are dividing his supporters. He says the files are a hoax that have been built up beyond proportion. Take a listen.
It's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey, they were run by Garland, they were run by Biden, and all of the people that actually ran the government. Those files were run by these people. They were run by my enemy. If there was anything in there, they would have used them for the election.
There you go. He's in Scotland playing golf for a couple of days. Just cannot get away from his old mate Epstein. Right, it is now 8 o'clock. You're watching Herald Now. Kia ora, good morning. You're watching Herald Now. I'm Ryan Bridge. It is 8 o'clock. Coming up this half hour, space. It's the final frontier, but it's also the Wild West when it comes to law and order. Why Judith Collins has cracked down on space laws this morning. She's with us live. How powerful is your passport, and does it make a difference what language it's written in? Where New Zealand sits in the passport rankings. That after 8:30. And it's called the greatest overland adventure on the planet. We meet the two Kiwis and their tiny car taking on the 16,000 kilometre Mongol Rally. First, here's Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
National and Labour appear to have found at least some common ground over incoming surcharge changes. The government's moving to ban surcharges on in-store card transactions by May next year. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon says the timeframe purely acknowledges the standard legislative process, but if they can go faster, they will. Labour leader Chris Hipkins says most Kiwis would like to see surcharges go, but there's still more work to be done to make sure it doesn't drive prices or disadvantage small businesses. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's defending increases to the pay of public board members. A cabinet document shows the top potential annual fee for chairs of governance boards is rising to more than $160,000, a jump from 2022's $90,000 limit. It's estimated members work about 30 days a year and chairs work about 50. Christopher Luxon says they want a competitive offering to attract good people. A 24-hour nurses' strike set for tomorrow is going ahead from 9 a.m. Bargaining between Health New Zealand and the nurses' organisation took place yesterday, with Health New Zealand saying it was committed to reaching an agreement and lifting the strike notice. But in a recent statement, the health agency says it's disappointed around 36,000 nurses, midwives and healthcare assistants will walk off the job for 24 hours tomorrow. It says it's estimated more than 4,000 planned procedures and specialist appointments will have to be postponed. Civil Defence is on standby in Nelson, Tasman for yet more heavy rain. Orange rain warnings are in effect for much of Nelson, Tasman and Marlborough, along with Auckland, the Coromandel, Bay of Plenty, Central North Island Mountains and Westland. Nelson, Tasman is expecting the heaviest rain from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with high tide and the strongest winds about midday. Tasman Mayor Tim King says lots of work has been done there since the last two storms hit, and he says it ranges from roads and rivers to protecting individual properties from further flooding. Donald Trump says Russia may force sanctions unless progress is made to end the war with Ukraine. The US president originally gave Vladimir Putin a 50-day deadline to end the war. He says he's been forced to reduce that to between 10 and 12 days.
I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
Meanwhile, an unconditional ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand has taken effect. Leaders in both countries agreed on the ceasefire after more than 30 people were killed in the conflict since late last week. The ceasefire took effect at 4 a.m. New Zealand time.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Silver Ferns coach Dame Nolene Todua is happy for the ANZ Premiership's best shooter, Amelia Walmsley, to miss the series against South Africa in favour of tournament play at Netball's Youth World Cup. Wallabies lock rather Nick Frost is defending flanker Carlo Tizzano after accusations of trying to milk a ruck penalty at the end of the second rugby test defeat to the Lions. The Lancashire Counties investigating an incident in which a fan attending the fourth cricket test between England and India at Old Trafford was asked to cover up a Pakistani limited overs shirt.
If you like a touch of authoritarianism when you go travelling, have I got the destination for you? North Korea, and there are new flights. Like, imagine if, and I suppose this would be the case if you lived in Russia at the moment, but you've got Russians who want to go on holiday, you've got the Western world sort of turning their noses up at them, you've got travel restrictions for a lot of the wealthier end of town. So where are the Russians going to go on holiday? And imagine if you lived in a situation where your idea of relaxation and freedom was North Korea. We brought you this news yesterday that there's a Moscow-Pyongyang flight that's going to be operated by Nordwind Airlines. Nordwind is your Russian outfit that used to take the Russians on holiday all over the world, no longer happening. So they're doing a monthly trip to Pyongyang. This will start only once a month, but you can get there and get back, I think, a week later. $570 American is how much it's going to cost you, and it will be operating twice a month. But what do you do on holiday in North Korea? I mean, it would be fascinating to go. In fact, I came close to going one time when I lived in China, but never quite got there. But you can do a marathon. There's a foreigners marathon run that you can do in Pyongyang. You can do some very limited sightseeing, a little bit restrictive on where you can go, what you can buy, who you can see, who you can talk to, what you can post. You know, you wouldn't be having pictures of your food on Facebook, would you, in North Korea? You'd be lucky to get food, I would imagine, in North Korea. Anyway, if you are in Russia and you're wanting to go to Pyongyang, you can do so once a month shortly. It's 6 after 8.
Herald Now Weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Good morning. It's wet and windy with nor'easterly strengthening as a couple of fronts head east across the country today. Many are sitting under watches and warnings, with Auckland upgraded to an orange heavy rain warning last night in place till 10 p.m. Now, the place of most concern is still Tasman east and south of Motueka, but excluding Nelson City District. There is still a high chance of you being upgraded to a red warning with heavy rains through till 9 p.m. tonight. But not too much rain expected for the lower south, with it often cloudy today and with just showers. North or nor'easterlies will turn westerly for most tonight. Now, the heavy rain will be in the west and north of the island, easing much later this evening. Winds are strong everywhere, with gusty northerlies for Ashburton easing this evening. Wet and likely windy here, with strong wind watches in place from Taranaki to the Central Plateau, including inland Whanganui, plus a rain warning for Taranaki Maunga. Hawke's Bay, the only region not under a watch or warning here. Showers turn to rain with heavy falls for Bay of Plenty and Taupo with gale nor'easterlies. And a pretty miserable day for the upper north. There's heavy falls with a risk of localised downpours not easing till late tonight, and gale nor'easters gusting 80 or 90 k's, also not easing till this evening.
7 after 8. Space, the final frontier and the latest frontier causing serious security concerns for the government. Legislation coming into force today to deter foreign actors from abusing our ground-based space infrastructure. Judith Collins is the Space Minister. It was done under urgency and she's with us this morning. Minister, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, good to have you on the show. Can I start first with this story from the Herald? This is about the increases, your Public Services Minister, the increases to the amount that members of boards or chairs of boards will be paid if they're on running government agencies. Why now? Why are we doing this? And some of them up to 80% from what I can understand.
Well, some of them are also at the moment paid $40,000 a year to do a job that is critical for delivery of public services to the New Zealand public. So there, in fact, in many cases, people would be shocked to know how little many of these people are paid. And the comparable role in those cases in the private sector would be around $70,000. So there are some, obviously, entities where they're involved and responsible for billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars, and also delivery of services, whether it's the blood service, it's ACC, or the Crown Research Institutes, TVNZ. These are entities where you actually want people who know what they're doing, not people who are just somebody who's willing to do a job which could take an awful lot of time and experience for, say, $30,000.
Is that what's happening now?
$40,000. Yeah. So basically, I heard Chris Hipkins on before. I mean, he used to be at this role, Public Service Minister. He should know the facts. Many of these people are paid basically to travel to Wellington to do the job, go home, and they miss out on all the work that they should be doing, their own businesses, but also we need experienced people. This is not a time to be silly about it. And it's about 10 years since they had a decent pay increase. 2 or 3 years ago, they got a 10% increase because even under Labor, they couldn't get people to do the job. And we need to make sure we've got some options.
How many on our boards currently shouldn't be there?
Oh, I think there's probably quite a bit of reshuffling going to go on. Obviously, I'm talking to other ministers, and as the Public Service Minister, I'm often involved in those discussions. We simply cannot afford to keep treating some of these services as though it's nice to have. I mean, I was pretty shocked to find that large numbers of the public service now and their senior leadership teams in ministries, government agencies and departments do not have a financial controller on their senior leadership team. So I have sent a letter out to ministers about this. I have also had the public service has contacted the chief executives and said this pathetic ignoring of the finances must stop. This is something that we never used to have, but what we've got now is there's been an awful lot of feelings, a lot of wokeisms, and a hell of a lot of delivery that hasn't been delivered.
And yet you're about to pay everyone at the top a lot more.
Well, how can you say a chairman of a board at the moment getting $40,000 is highly paid?
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, being a chair, I've been in these roles.
Fair,
I know how hard they are.
To be fair, how can you sit there and say that when you're offering the nurses less than inflation?
Well, nurses now, of course, highly valued. Are getting on average, from memory, it's around about $110,000 a year. Plus, there's other things like various other benefits that they get from it. But you're talking about these board chairs, in some cases, are responsible for millions or even billions of dollars. And actually, this is really important that we get this right. When I look at some of these board roles, I think it takes someone who really wants to give up an awful lot of time and their own money to take these roles on. And it's not just that. We need people who know what they're doing, highly experienced.
All right.
I look at something like Kāinga Ora, the housing portfolio. We've got someone in there now, knows what they're doing, total turnaround. And by the way, we cannot afford to go into billions of dollars of debt on all these entities.
Yeah, but you got that person for the cheaper rate, right?
Well, the thing is that you still have to... No, we often have to get the higher rates for things because we've been getting more and more people saying, look, I won't do the job for that because I'm happy to give up another role to have the time to do it. And that's the other thing. So you do need to be competitive, but at the same time, if you're a very busy, very good and competent chair or experienced director, you've really got to want to help the country to do these jobs.
Minister, let's turn to space. You've got this legislation done. It's coming into force from today. Can you give us an example of what foreign act, because we're hearing all about the foreign actors who are using local space infrastructure for nefarious purposes. Can you give us an example of exactly what's happened?
Well, we've been involved, and I'll tell you what I can tell you without obviously breaching the rules around secrecy of these matters. But ground-based space infrastructure could be something like a particular telescope, or it could be some form of other activity that could monitor satellites, say, for instance, communication satellites or other sorts of satellites that are important to our country. And they could, for instance, know exactly what's going on, where those satellites are, what they're doing. Now, we've had instances in the past where foreign-based governments or actors associated with foreign militaries have come to New Zealand and said to our New Zealand providers of these services, look, we'd really like to have this because, my name's so-and-so, and this is what I want to do, and I'm interested in it. And our security agencies have been along to those landowners and have said, you do realise these are who these people really are. And those people, the New Zealanders have said, well, okay, stop, we're not going to do business deals. That is becoming less guaranteed now that people will listen. So therefore, we're putting this mechanism in place. We provide this sort of service to many of our Pacific neighbours, by the way, helping them when they get approached by foreign-based militaries who are basically having them on, conning them into something. The same thing happens in New Zealand, and we'll be probably one of the very first countries in the world to have this sort of regulation and ability to stop this.
Chinese agents or agents of the Chinese government that you're talking about, if we know that they've come here and tried to do this, do we revoke their visa? How are they getting into the country? Are we following up on that now that they've left?
Well, I'm not stating any particular country, but I'm very clear. I think this is not legislation that's specific to any particular nation or ethnicity or anything. This is about anybody who comes in with a design to do what they're doing. So what we say is we have a regulatory system that will enable these to be approved by the Minister for Space, which is myself, and that system will go through quite a light touch, but it will be obviously backed up by the security agency. So, for instance, when I approve launches, vertical launches from, say, Mahia Peninsula, all of those have to go through the security agencies first before they come to me. So that's the same sort of system we're talking about.
All right, Minister, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much for coming on. Space Minister Judith Collins, also Public Services. It's 16 minutes after 8. There's a beautiful meteor shower we're supposed to experience in our night skies tonight. Well, you won't be able to see it because it's raining. Coming up before 8:30, they call it the greatest overland adventure on the planet. The two Kiwis and their tiny car competing in the Mongol Rally. Next, though, cameras in McDonald's bathrooms. Then the panel is in to talk us through the big stories of the day.
When building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GJs because of the good quality that they always provide us.
They help us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
After 20 seasons on the footy field, it's fair to say I know a thing or two about resilience. Digging deep when the going gets tough. Just like Kaiwaka wet weather gear. Kaiwaka's been in the game for 200 seasons. 50 years of facing up to the elements, getting the job done and coming back for more. And that's guaranteed for a lifetime. Kaiwaka, designed to perform, made to outlast.
Of course we can set up the new smart TV for you. We could also put it on the wall for you too.
Want to keep your family safe online? We've got tips for that.
Yeah, I can show you how to use the AI on your laptop.
Teaching the kids to do laundry? These washing machines auto-dispense the perfect amount of detergent, making it super easy to learn.
Wait, what's a Ninja Creamy?
Got tech questions? We've got answers. With 66 stores nationwide, your tech experts ready to help.
Welcome back. It is 18 after 8. McDonald's is defending its use of a CCTV camera in one of its Wellington restaurants. Customers say it's a blatant breach of privacy. McDonald's claims it's vandalism prevention. The problem is, this is not the first time. By the way, I should mention, the camera is in the bathroom at McDonald's. Jaslyn Wales is a live reporter. Hi, Jaslyn.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So, what's the deal here?
Well, while visiting a store, one customer noticed a sign in the bathrooms indicating that cameras were in use to prevent vandalism. The customers reached out to McDonald's in an email obtained by the Herald saying he was quote unquote deeply disturbed by these cameras.
So it was in the actual bathroom?
Yes, and the customer said he understood that vandalism can be a problem. But that bathrooms are private spaces and quote unquote, he thought it was a bit creepy. He said that all people of all ages use the bathrooms and he wants the footage to be taken down and deleted.
Is this, Jaslyn, we're looking at the photo now and the camera's on the wall, and I hate to be descriptive, but is he staring at a urinal? Is that camera staring down at him as he's going to the bathroom, or is it just getting the back of people?
So to the left of where the camera would be pointing, you'd be able to see just the top of the stool. And then I believe that he's standing where the sinks are. And then where in the background is the door, yes.
Okay, so it's not, they're not aiming it at your junk, Jaslyn.
No, not quite. But the customer still said that, he still felt like it was a bit of an invasion of privacy. People could be getting changed in there. Just doing all sorts of things that they don't really want recorded.
Yeah, exactly, because it's a bathroom, right? So McDonald's has come out and defended this to you?
Yes, absolutely. So a McDonald's spokesperson, Simon Kenny, said the use of CCTV was carefully considered. It's only used around the sinks and doors, he said, and it is just to deter vandalism and reduce antisocial behaviour. He said restaurants are really, copping the cost of paying for vandalism. And he said that generally customers have been really understanding of this.
All right, Jaslyn, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for that update. Jaslyn Wales, live reporter, talking about the cameras McDonald's has placed in at least one of its Wellington restaurants after complaints about vandalism and the cost associated with it. Now, it is time to talk the big issues of the day, starting with the John probably. Joining me for our daily panel is Rawdon Christie, real estate agent and broadcaster. Good morning. Good to see you. Tuila Blakely's here as well, actress and author. Good morning.
Good morning, darling.
Good to see you.
You too, handsome.
Hey, so you saw the photo of where the cameras... I mean, well, first of all, does it really matter where they are in a bathroom? Should they be in a bathroom at all?
I think for the purposes that McDonald's has installed them and where in the bathroom, I do, because some of those McDonald's bathrooms, I don't know if you've been in them, like on road trips, they are completely trashed. And, you don't want them in the stalls, of course, but in that general area, yeah, I think there's a place for them.
Yeah, because otherwise, you're right, it's not like you can use the bathroom anyway once they've been completely trashed by... I don't even know why you would do that, but some people do.
It's somebody's business, and they're trying to protect their business and they're trying to look after their other customers. And I know it's a weird thing, but your question was, are they filming inappropriate parts of the bathroom? Of course they're not.
Yeah.
There's a sign up, they make it clear. What I want to know is, what are you doing in a bathroom, let's say at the sink, with your back to the camera that you don't want people to see? I understand it with the stalls or the urinals, but they're not going to film that. So what is it that you're worried about being caught doing or being seen doing in a security camera.
Our executive producer Paul has just whispered in my ear that a lot of drug deals happen in McDonald's bathrooms. How do you know that, Paul?
Yeah, Paul.
How do you know that? I'm calling BS. That's something an old man would say. Oh no, lots of drug deals here.
Don't go there, children. Yes.
Anyway, don't do it in McDonald's. Go to KFC.
Yeah, now they're going to change.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, farming. Should farming parents really be fined $50,000 for letting their kids do light chores on the farm? This is a story about health and safety regulations, workplace health and safety regulations. It does sound a little ridiculous.
It is. It's total government overreach. And I mean, my father is from a 5th generation farming family in Central Otago. My poor father had to work the farm since he was 9 years old and actually had to leave school at 14. Farming families, their work is their home. I just don't think that governments have a place to tell farming families that in very specific family environments and a very specific, family business that their kids can't work on the farm. Of course they can.
Yeah. Look, it's stupid.
Look, it's a classic case of just use your common sense, isn't it? I mean, look, to defend the government here, I thought the government was actually now trying to get clarity from WorkSafe or Health and Safety New Zealand or whatever it is to say that, hold on, you're not going to have your 7-year-old arrested for collecting eggs. I think they're just trying to get clarity, which is a good thing. We need that because you're right. You've got to be careful about who's going to be operating quad bikes and under what situations. But the principle of a child working on a farm and the farmer getting fined is just, it's the word you use, it's ridiculous.
Next thing they'll be telling us we can't have our kids do chores at home because that counts as minimum wage or something.
Yeah, and you have to provide them the right, tea towel, and they have to have the right knee pads. And
totally.
Hey, this documentary out of the UK, this is an interesting story. So, Motherboard, it's called. This is a film by a parent who's using 20 years of footage of her son that she has filmed on her phone and on cameras, starting as a fetus. We first meet Jim as a fetus on an ultrasound screen, and his mum-to-be gives a thumbs up. There's a whole thing. Anyway, she puts this all together, all the footage of his life, into a documentary which she is releasing. How do you feel about, Rawdon, with, if you've got kids, filming them and then putting it on? And presumably, he's older now, so presumably she's asked his permission.
He's a 21-year-old. He's been very involved in the edit. He's been very involved in the content. I think his mother has respected the fact that if he doesn't like something in there, it's not going to be in there. So it sounds like a great collaboration by a I was going to say mature adult, but an immature adult, 21-year-old. But when you look at the trailer for the film, it's fascinating. I'd be really interested to see it. The issue of publishing or broadcasting your children when they're young without their permission, which they can't really give in an objective way, I do have a bit of an issue with. And I would say to anyone doing it, just tiptoe very carefully through that and respect the fact that one day, here's the litmus test. Is one day your 5-year-old or 3-year-old or 7-year-old going to say, I wish you'd never shown that? Because if they are possibly going to do that, you probably shouldn't be showing it.
Not worth it. Hey.
I mean, I think it's fascinating, and I think it'd be an incredible piece of work to watch. If he hadn't had say and so much to do with the edit, I would think that, there's could be a little bit, it's inappropriate to film a child in their entirety for their life. But he's had a part of it, and I think it's just like that Dunedin study on behaviour. It's when people do things like this, they actually become an incredible resource. And to film someone's life, and it's, even as memory, because I think, now my son's 33, and if I think back to all parts of his life, there's parts that I can't remember as clearly, there's parts that we'll remember differently. So I think to have a record like that is actually quite incredible. But yes, certainly have the child involved in how that's put out there.
Yeah,
100%.
Get the disclaimer, get them to sign the agreement before you publish the film. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for coming in this morning. Good to have you both on. That is actress and author Twyla Blakely and real estate agent and broadcaster Rawdon Christie. It is 27 minutes after 8 o'clock. Now, For more than 20 years, the Mongol Rally has enticed motorists with its transcontinental route across Europe and Asia. And this year, more than 100 cars are taking part in the drive from the Czech Republic to Kazakhstan. And of course, there are Kiwis in the mix. Sean Young is with us, along with Robbie Howitson, members of the team Bad Decisions. I think I got the emphasis right there. Good morning, team. How are we?
Yeah, good. We're currently in Azerbaijan at the moment, waiting to get our car back on the way through to Kazakhstan.
Tell us about the car and whose idea this was to do the race.
I've had some mates do this in the past and saw they had a good time, so I came up with that, and these three all agreed and came along. We've got engine size restrictions on the car, so we just started looking for the cheapest 1 litre car we could get in the UK, and it was love at first sight. She's a beauty.
So what sort of car have you got? I couldn't quite hear you.
We've got a 1 litre Hyundai Mika, and it's bright yellow.
Bright yellow, beautiful. And so what's the plan? Can you all fit in there? How does that work, the logistics?
Well, she's a pretty tight squeeze most of the time, but we will just take turns kind of rotating. There's maybe 3 inches more room in the front passenger seat, so everybody gets a turn.
It just looks like a tiny car. You look like quite big men.
It is.
You just deal with that. Who cares? It's only 16,000 kilometres. Have you been practicing? Have you been training?
Yeah, all the boys are pretty well practiced driving a manual except myself, so I'm just passenger princess and vibes.
How long does it actually take?
So we started on the 12th of August. 12th of July, and we're riding through till the 23rd of August. So about 4 to 6 weeks. Not very fast.
It looks like incredible things that you're seeing and experiencing. What are some of the highlights for you?
Probably my highlight so far is we drove 2 of the world's most dangerous roads coming through Turkey, the D915 and the Dark Canyon. So, yeah, I'd say I got to drive through the Dark Canyon, which is like 10 kilometres of hand-carved tunnels with just sheer drop-offs down the side into the river. So it was pretty exhilarating driving.
Do you know where you're coming in the... Look at the state of the car. Do you know where you are in the race? Are you winning?
It's not exactly a race. I think anyone that passes the finish line is kind of the winner. Some teams have already dropped out. Some teams haven't even started yet due to car issues. But yeah, not a race. We're about middle of the pack.
Very cool. Tell us about the charity that you're fundraising for, guys.
So the charity is called Cool Earth. So what they do is they give money directly to Indigenous communities that kind of caretake rainforests around the world, so Peru, Papua New Guinea, places like that. And the idea is that they're creating carbon sinks to help fight climate change.
Geez, that car must feel like a carbon sink by the time you finish driving it with you. Hey, good luck. Appreciate you coming on the show. And about a month, they are expecting they will reach Kazakhstan, the end of the race. That is Sean Young and Robbie Howitson, along with the other lads from the Mongol Rally. They are our Kiwi team taking part, members of the Mongol Rally team, Bad Decisions. And if you want to support their charity, I'm sure you can. It is 29 minutes. Oh, sorry, what was that? Justgiving.com is where you can find them, and the name is it's Bad Decisions. Go figure that out. Here's news.
Herald NOW News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
National and Labour appear to have found at least some common ground over incoming surcharge changes. The government's moving to ban surcharges on in-store card transactions by May next year. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon says the timeframe purely acknowledges the standard legislative process, but if they can go faster, they will. Labour leader Chris Hipkins says most Kiwis would like to see surcharges go, but there's still more work to be done to make sure it doesn't drive prices or disadvantage small businesses. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's defending increases to the pay of public board members. A cabinet document shows the top potential annual fee for chairs of governance boards is rising to more than $160,000, a jump from 2022's $90,000 limit. It's estimated members work about 30 days a year and chairs work about 50. Christopher Luxon says they want a competitive offering to attract good people. A 24-hour nurses' strike set for tomorrow is going ahead from 9 a.m. Bargaining between Health New Zealand and the nurses' organisation took place yesterday, with Health New Zealand saying it was committed to reaching an agreement and lifting the strike notice. But in a recent statement, the health agency says it's disappointed around 36,000 nurses, midwives and healthcare assistants will walk off the job for 24 hours tomorrow. It says it's estimated more than 4,000 planned procedures and specialist appointments will have to be postponed. Civil Defence is on standby in Nelson, Tasman for yet more heavy rain. Orange rain warnings are in effect for much of Nelson, Tasman and Marlborough, along with Auckland, the Coromandel, Bay of Plenty, Central North Island Mountains and Westland. Nelson, Tasman is expecting the heaviest rain from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with high tide and the strongest winds about midday. Tasman Mayor Tim King says lots of work has been done there since the last two storms hit, and he says it ranges from roads and rivers to protecting individual properties from further flooding. Donald Trump says Russia may force sanctions unless progress is made to end the war with Ukraine. The US president originally gave Vladimir Putin a 50-day deadline to end the war. He says he's been forced to reduce that to between 10 and 12 days.
I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
Meanwhile, an unconditional ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand has taken effect. Leaders in both countries agreed on the ceasefire after more than 30 people were killed in the conflict since late last week. The ceasefire took effect at 4 a.m. New Zealand time.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Silver Ferns coach Dame Nolene Todua is happy for the ANZ Premiership's best shooter, Amelia Walmsley, to miss the series against South Africa in favour of tournament play at Netball's Youth World Cup. Wallabies lock-rather Nick Frost is defending flanker Carlo Tizzano after accusations of trying to milk a ruck penalty at the end of the second rugby test defeat to the Lions. The Lancashire Counties investigating an incident in which a fan attending the fourth cricket test between England and India at Old Trafford was asked to cover up a Pakistani limited overs shirt.
Herald Now Weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Good morning. It's wet and windy with nor'easterly strengthening as a couple of fronts head east across the country today. Many are sitting under watches and warnings, with Auckland upgraded to an orange heavy rain warning last night in place till 10 p.m. Now, the place of most concern is still Tasman east and south of Motueka, but excluding Nelson City District. There is still a high chance of you being upgraded to a red warning with heavy rains through till 9 p.m. tonight. But not too much rain expected for the lower south, with it often cloudy today and with just showers. North or nor'easterlies will turn westerly for most tonight. Now, the heavy rain will be in the west and north of the island, easing much later this evening. Winds are strong everywhere with gusty northerlies for Ashburton easing this evening. Wet and likely windy here with strong wind watches in place from Taranaki to the Central Plateau, including inland Whanganui, plus a rain warning for Taranaki Maunga. Hawke's Bay, the only region not under a watch or warning here. Showers turn to rain with heavy falls for Bay of Plenty and Taupō with gale nor'easterlies. And a pretty miserable day for the upper north. There's heavy falls with a risk of localised downpours not easing till late tonight, and gale nor'easters gusting 80 or 90 k's, also not easing till this evening.
24 to 9, let's talk travel. Lorna Riley's here, host of the Trip Notes podcast. Lorna, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
Now, I love your topics today. The passport wars, we always love this story.
Oh, yeah.
So who's come out on top?
Who's got the powerful passports?
Yeah.
So this is the Henley Power Ranking, and they do this every 6 months. And Singapore has once again come in at top. So this is the number of destinations that a passport holder can visit without a visa. So that's how they rank them. So Singapore's top. They've got visa-free access to 193 countries, and in fact it's Asia all the way. Japan and South Korea share second place with 190 destinations. The only Southern Hemisphere destination in the top 5, coming in at number 5, is New Zealand. 187 destinations. We share that with Greece and Switzerland. Some big losers this year though. The UK passport has slipped. That's now in 6th place. And the US is in 10th place. Now that's on the brink of exiting the top 10 altogether, the first time in the 20-year history of these rankings that the United States has looked like dropping out of that 10th position. And when I say top 10, it's not just 10 countries, because number 2 might have 5 countries, if you know what I mean. They don't
I see.
sort them down.
Place.
So there's actually 33 countries ahead of the United States in terms of powerful passports.
Wow.
Definitely slipping.
Yeah, it is. Interesting that. Now, you've got a hot travel destination for us this week. And
do.
It's somewhere cold.
Yes, it is. Iceland is the top travel destination at the moment. Cool temperatures, which is nice because the rest of Europe's sort of 40 degrees plus. You've got 10 to 15 degrees in the daytime in Iceland. And you've got those jaw-dropping landscapes. There's unique volcanic activity once again. You can always rely on that. So people are keen to see the lava flows, geothermal fields. Local authorities are keeping it really safe and well managed. There's some really good flight deals from North America and Europe, maybe not so much from New Zealand, but if you can get yourself to North America or Europe, you can hop onto Iceland pretty quickly. And so the 2 top attractions are the Blue Lagoon on Reykjanes Peninsula. There's a geothermal spa in a lava field, so it's kind of like milky blue water, absolutely brilliant. It's near the airport too, so it makes for a perfect first or last stop. And the Golden Circuit route, which is a walking route that's basically day long.
Yes,
it takes you
I've
through
heard about
some
this.
incredible and past geysers and waterfalls, an amazing 2-tiered waterfall.
Absolutely beautiful, and everyone goes there, raves about it. If you're living in Europe and you're looking at a country like Iceland, which has got all of those, as you say, the amazing natural features, you know, you've got your everything's there, and they've got the light show. Why would you bother coming to New Zealand?
Well, yes, I mean, we haven't even touched on the Northern Lights, so it's like, absolutely incredible.
It's all on.
A very small population. So let's just hope that they can cope with this boost in tourism that being a hot destination brings.
Absolutely. Now, your website of the week is seatmaps.com.
Yeah, so I don't know about you, but I like to choose my seat on a flight. I don't like to just sort of turn up and get whatever they give you. But not all aircraft are created equally or set out equally. So seatmaps.com, it was co-founded by the Guinness World Record holder for passenger miles, so he knows what he's talking about. And it takes you through every aircraft, every flight, every airline, and you can see all the features of your seat, all the good points, all the bad points. And one feature that I really like is it has some 360-degree views of some of the first-class cabins, so you can have a little nosy and see what those cabins actually look like, even if you're never going to be flying up the pointy end, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
Great, seatmaps.com. I will definitely use that little tip from you. Thank you. Good to see you. That's Lorna Riley, Trip Notes podcast on and host for us at Travel Tuesdays. Just gone 20 to 9 now. The rain has started falling on the Tasman district again, with 16 hours of heavy rain forecast today. Civil Defence has set up emergency operations centres as the region prepares for the worst. Rob Smith, Tasman Civil Defence Controller, with us. Rob, what you seeing? Anything you're concerned about at this point?
Paul Moreau, sorry, morning. It's actually, at the moment, it's pretty much exactly what the Met Service have predicted. So started raining Golden Bay around 2 o'clock this morning, and in this side, in the Richmond-Nelson area, about 6 o'clock this morning. Rainfall is about what the prediction is at the moment, but it's just as we're watching it through the day, how that will happen. So at the moment we have activated our EOC, so that means we're got all the people in the room, we're doing our planning, and then we will be working through monitoring that rain and then seeing what progresses during the day.
All right, and you're worried about a northeasterly wind. What's got you worried?
Hopefully that's a red herring. So at the moment, the rain is from the north, and the north pushes straight into the Tasman Bay. And so that takes it around the kind of Waiheke area, which was hit twice in the last month. If it were to go northeasterly, it turns that rain around and it runs back towards the likes of Brooklyn and Maraho. And that's where our granite country is. So then the risk that the granite country is that it gets heavy with rain and it slips, especially when it's already had, a month's worth of rain, several months worth of rain on it.
What's your advice to people this morning, Rob? Sounds like nothing's happened yet, but you're vigilant. Just watch the river levels, that sort of thing, all the usual stuff.
Yeah, and listen to the broadcasts and watch the website if you're concerned. You can always ring council if you need information. Remember, if you feel distressed or you feel at risk, 111 is still there. That's your primary number to call. At the moment, it's just be aware of your situation. And if you were one of those properties, particularly in the Wakefield area or Brooklyn area that was impacted in the last two events, just be aware of your surroundings. The fortunate thing at the moment is the rain is during the day, so people will be able to see what's occurring. And then this should pass through early evening.
Appreciate your time, Rob. Take care. Rob Smith, Tasman Civil Defence Controller. 17 to 9, and you're watching Herald Now. Next, Chelsea Daniels, the Front Page podcast, is here. Today, is the power sector broken, and should the government be stepping in to do something?
Of course we can set up the new smart TV for you. We can also put it on the wall for you too.
Want to keep your family safe online? We've got tips for that.
Yeah, I can show you how to use the AI on your laptop.
Teaching the kids to do laundry? These washing machines auto-dispense the perfect amount of detergent, making it super easy to learn.
Wait, what's a Ninja Creamy?
Got tech questions? We've got answers. With 66 stores nationwide, your tech experts ready to help.
After 20 seasons on the footy field, it's fair to say I know a thing or two about resilience, just like Kaiwaka wet weather gear. Digging deep when the going gets tough. Kaiwaka, designed to perform, made to outlast.
We've done few subdivisions with GJ Gardner, and from the resource consent to the building consent, getting the council permits and stuff, always GJ Gardners are ahead and helping us out through the whole process, and it was so easy working with GJ.
Quarter to 9, Herald Now. How do we fix the broken energy sector? That's a loaded question, isn't it? Is it broken? How broken? How many pieces is it in? Chelsea Daniels, the Front Page podcast host, will tackle this on the podcast today. Chelsea, good morning.
I'm fixing it, Ryan.
How many?
Fixing it.
How many pieces is it in?
Look, it's a loaded question because it's broken. There's not much competition. We know that. I spoke to Consumer NZ's Power Switch manager, Paul Fuge, on the episode this morning. He said the time for tinkering around the edges is over. We need a consequential reform in the sector. It's something that no government, successive governments haven't touched, because it will be a bit of work as well. The bottom line is we haven't seen enough investment in the generation of power. We've seen some, but not enough. And it's because there are some structural issues in the market that haven't been addressed. One of the things he's observed in the market is that the price of electricity has been decoupled from the price of generation and producing it. The forward prices of electricity are currently well above the long-run cost of building new power stations and have been since 2019. So that's a pretty good indication that there's no competition in the market. And I said, well, Paul, I asked, legally, are gentailers meant to give a shit about us, right? Because we're paying more. We're constantly hearing about there's no generation, there's no new, power plants going up, there's nothing like that. And he said, look, at the moment, there's no requirement for them to do so. So I said, well, can the government perhaps tell them that they need to or something, you know what I mean? And then the episode, you'll hear me a couple of times saying, Paul, can you explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old? But essentially, what's happening at the moment is that you've got the gentailers and then you've got the smaller retailers, the independent ones coming in and trying to get a foothold in the market, right? But they're coming up against gentailers who are obviously producing, they're in the wholesale market, and then they sell to the retailers. But they've also got retail arms. So I was like, right, Paul, so is it mates rates? And he's like, well, that's the suggestion.
That's the accusation.
That's the accusation, so you can
Which
sell it to your mate.
They strongly deny, because I've asked them about it.
Yeah, they strongly deny it, but there's nothing to kind of stop them at the moment.
Giving sweetheart deals.
Could the government come in and say, look, you need to completely separate your retail and your wholesale arm, so independent, more innovative companies, the ones that have better customer service, they give better prices, they're thinking forward, they're thinking of ideas to help us in the future, so they can get a really good stronghold in the country. Could the government step in and do something like that?
Well, I suppose they could step in and do a lot of things. I just don't think there is a genuine appetite to do anything seriously about electricity, supermarkets. I mean, they talk a big game. Nothing's going to change.
They could write a letter, perhaps.
Another letter, another meeting.
Strongly worded letter.
Let's have a cup of tea about power prices. Let's have a cup of tea about butter.
Chuck in a commissioner.
Yeah, no, that'll solve it.
Yeah.
Always does. Chelsea, good to see you.
You
and
too.
Looking forward to today's podcast. Chelsea Daniels, the Front Page podcast host, and you can find that episode where all of your good podcasts can be found. Time now to that sounded more cryptic than it needed to. Time to talk business with our partners 2 Degrees Now. Will rising unemployment nudge the Reserve Bank to cut interest rates when it makes another call in about a month's time? Earlier, I had Garth Bray on from Business Desk, started by asking how the employment numbers out yesterday were looking and how they might be reflected in an OCR decision.
Whisker up 0.1 and year on year down 1.2, I think was what we were looking at. And that 0.1 was about a 0.1 increase, I think, in May, and that was revised down to a negative 0.1. So basically these numbers get looked at, last month's numbers get looked at when the current numbers come out. Increasingly they get nudged back, and that's led some economists, the NZ's economists, for example, to say, look, we are expecting unemployment to hit about 5.3% in the June quarter. It was about 5.1 in May. All that suggests that fewer jobs. I mean, I think we had the numbers out yesterday, 27,850 fewer jobs than there were this time last year, most of them in construction. Fewer jobs, fewer people spending, less inflation, less inflationary pressure, less reason for the Reserve Bank to be worried about that and to maybe think, okay, we can put the foot on the gas gently. And expectations that might flow through to an October cut as well, if those numbers actually bear out. Yeah.
I think they just need to go double whammy, straight up the guts.
Plant the boot.
Yeah, plant the boot, exactly. It feels like, if ever there was a time, it's now. Hey, also Deval, we've got an accountant in trouble related to the Deval investigation.
Yeah, this is this big property firm we've talked about a few times, the developers who were put into statutory management by the government nearly a year ago. And at the Chartered Accountants Institute, there was a disciplinary tribunal down in Wellington yesterday where an accountant that worked for Deval, Waikato accountant, can't be named until later today, has to break the bad news that pleaded guilty to conduct unbecoming and discrediting the profession, basically for refusing to take orders from the statutory managers that were put in place and continuing to supply information to some of the shareholders, dealing with one of the founders, and basically putting information out there which the tribunal evidence suggested was giving people who had put money into this business an unfair picture or an unclear picture that the business was solvent. They didn't give the complete picture, that was the charge. And that's a serious situation, obviously, and that's left the statutory managers took this complaint, and they're looking at, could be like a $30,000, $15,000 fine, but it also just highlights how unusual this was. This is pretty atypical for someone to be pinged in this way.
Yeah. Now, looking ahead, we've got some jobs data. We've got more jobs data, Aussie workforce participation today, and US non-farm payrolls Friday.
Yeah, and there's something as well called the JOLTS, the Job Openings and Labour Turnover, I think it is, which is another study out of the US today. So lots of jobs numbers around and lots of indications about how, as a lagging indicator, jobs are responding to those other indicators that we're seeing in terms of tariffs, price rises and so on.
That was Garth Bray from Business Desk, thanks to our partners 2 Degrees. It is 8 to 9 now. Coming up next, we'll look at the stories breaking on the Herald with Katie Oliver. Stay with us.
Considering a DIY kitchen, but just not sure if you can do it? Well, it's not as hard as you think. With You Do It DIY Kitchens, you're in safe hands. And the customer support team really know their stuff. After all, they design and manufacture everything here in New Zealand. You do it, and you save money. So choose You Do It, the affordable DIY Kiwi kitchen with a great reputation. Visit newsroom.co.nz.
A lot of radio shows like to say they're with you in the morning.
Here at The Hits, we like to go the extra mile.
Not all of us get to experience this.
Come on, you're running late.
It's going to be a great day today, babes. I can feel it. Spit. You see, when we say we're with you, we actually mean it.
Oh, don't forget Sarah, who got social netball tonight. And Mark's working late again.
Jono and Ben with you in the morning and anytime on iHeartRadio. On The Hits.
I'm Hayden Scott and I'm a knife maker. I make knives from my workshop at home in West Auckland. Yeah, my previous life I was a chef, did that for 25 years. But I had this knife making thing that I was doing and had been doing for some time. And so that transition from finishing that 25-year career and taking the plunge into full-time knife maker, I had been building up to that, but I still had to take a leap.
Ah, here she is. How's the business going?
Good, actually. We just switched to 2 Degrees. Well, we tested the networks and couldn't see any difference. But 2 Degrees has the most satisfied customers. With Flex, we get instant control of phone plans, data usage, and cost centre reporting. And they're the fastest growing business network.
Can I have what she's having?
Welcome back, 6 to 9 now. Let's take a look ahead. Katie Oliver, Herald NOW reporter. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Any updates on this missing tramper in Greymouth you told us about yesterday?
Yeah, so despite the terrible weather, search teams are out again northeast of Greymouth searching for Roy Arbon. Now, as we spoke about yesterday, Roy's been missing for 6 days now. Now, search teams are not going to stop searching. He's actually a remarkable guy, as we spoke about yesterday. He's recovered bodies from the Mount Erebus disaster. He's recovered bodies from the Cave Creek disaster in 1995 after the West Coast dock platform collapsed. He's also found himself entwined in a cocaine drug smuggling situation and found himself in an Australian prison for 18 months. Now, he is a remarkable guy. He's known nationally, and as you just saw, he was last seen in CCTV footage on the 23rd riding his bike. So police are urging anyone who has seen anything about Roy to tell them and let them know.
Okay, and meanwhile, we've got thousands of homes already without power because of the weather this morning.
Yeah, so this is an ongoing story, Ryan. We've got 980 homes without power in Northland and various regions across that area. Now, residents are urged to treat these down lines as live. Now, further south, we've got more than 600 properties without power across Central North Island, Bay of Plenty and Coromandel. Now also, Waikato Regional Council is just urging motorists and people in the area just to be cautious because there's quite a high risk of surface flooding in that area, particularly because it's already saturated in places. Now they could see slips and there is a higher risk of trees falling down as well, so they're just urging people to take care on the roads there.
All right, good advice, Katie. Thank you for that. Katie Oliver from the Herald. It is 4 minutes away from 9 o'clock. Time for some of your feedback this morning, which we always appreciate and love. Angela, Geez, you're hard to please this morning, Angela. She says, good morning, Ryan. What the hell is going on? Government ministers and the nurses' union representatives were not on point on the show today. Maybe it's the effect of the wind making people crazy because, well, there was no clear message this morning from either of these guests. You may as well bring Willie Jackson on, she says. He may actually make sense today. He'll be here on Friday, no doubt. Lisa, Ryan, how much additional strain on the health system is attributable to the increase in the population due to immigration? Is it Lisa or is it Winston Peters writing that email? Heather. Paul is our producer who's forwarded the email. Ryan, great to see you on the screen, blah, 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 blah. Thank you, that's very kind. But Heather says, Heather says a bunch of nice stuff. I don't like reading nice stuff because it sounds a bit self-indulgent. Do you know what I mean? But I do appreciate that, Heather, thank you. And this is from Paul. No, it's Trevor. If your meal at a restaurant costs $25, because we're talking about the fee, the surcharges that you get, so they either have the surcharge when you go and pay, and that's 2 or 3% extra, or they're going to increase the price that you pay for the price of a meal, generally. This says, Ryan, there's logic missing this morning. If your meal at a restaurant costs $25 and the surcharge at the till is $3, then the cost of your meal is $28, correct? If you pay $28 for a meal with no surcharge, it is the same price. How could you say the price is going up? It is a good question. What it would come down to is just where it's placed. We were talking about potentially it would push up inflation, right? So depending on where the cost is attributable, if it says, you know, your financial transaction costs have gone up over a period of time versus your food, then it would just move the category under which it's the inflation would be classified. But you're right, it doesn't change the overall cost. Well, it shouldn't change the overall cost, even if they switched it from a transaction fee to a general price increase. It is 1 to 9. A brand new trailer for the third movie of the Avatar franchise has just landed. Shot at the same time as the last Avatar movie between 2017 and 2020. Avatar Fire and Ash will be released in December. This was released just hours ago. Take a look.
You cannot live like this, baby. In hate.
If there is something you can do, then you must do it. The children. No, Spider. And we will find another way.
There you go, blue people acting. 9 o'clock, here's news.
Herald NOW News, powered by News Talk ZB.
National and Labour appear to have found at least some common ground over incoming surcharge changes. The government's moving to ban surcharges on in-store card transactions by May next year. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon says the timeframe purely acknowledges the standard legislative process, but if they can go faster, they will. Labour leader Chris Hipkins says most Kiwis would like to see surcharges go, but there's still more work to be done to make sure it doesn't drive prices or disadvantage small businesses. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's defending increases to the pay of public board members. A cabinet document shows the top potential annual fee for chairs of governance boards is rising to more than $160,000, a jump from 2022's $90,000 limit. It's estimated members work about 30 days a year and chairs work about 50. Christopher Luxon says they want a competitive offering to attract good people. A 24-hour nurses' strike set for tomorrow is going ahead from 9 a.m. Bargaining between Health New Zealand and the nurses' organisation took place yesterday, with Health New Zealand saying it was committed to reaching an agreement and lifting the strike notice. But in a recent statement, the health agency says it's disappointed around 36,000 nurses, midwives and healthcare assistants will walk off the job for 24 hours tomorrow. It says it's estimated more than 4,000 planned procedures and specialist appointments will have to be postponed. Civil Defence is on standby in Nelson, Tasman for yet more heavy rain. Orange rain warnings are in effect for much of Nelson, Tasman and Marlborough, along with Auckland, the Coromandel, Bay of Plenty, Central North Island Mountains and Westland. Nelson, Tasman is expecting the heaviest rain from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with high tide and the strongest winds about midday. Tasman Mayor Tim King says lots of work has been done there since the last two storms hit, and he says it ranges from roads and rivers to protecting individual properties from further flooding. Donald Trump says Russia may force sanctions unless progress is made to end the war with Ukraine. The US president originally gave Vladimir Putin a 50-day deadline to end the war. He says he's been forced to reduce that to between 10 and 12 days.
I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
Meanwhile, an unconditional ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand has taken effect. Leaders in both countries agreed on the ceasefire after more than 30 people were killed in the conflict since late last week. The ceasefire took effect at 4 a.m. New Zealand time.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
Silver Ferns coach Dame Nolene Todua is happy for the ANZ Premiership's best shooter, Amelia Walmsley, to miss the series against South Africa in favour of tournament play at Netball's Youth World Cup. Wallabies lock-rather Nick Frost is defending flanker Carlo Tizzano after accusations of trying to milk a ruck penalty at the end of the second rugby test defeat to the Lions. The Lancashire County is investigating an incident in which a fan attending the fourth cricket test between England and India at Old Trafford was asked to cover up a Pakistani limited overs shirt.
Herald Now Weather, brought to you by You Do It Kitchens.
Good morning. It's wet and windy with nor'easterly strengthening as a couple of fronts head east across the country today. Many are sitting under watches and warnings, with Auckland upgraded to an orange heavy rain warning last night in place till 10 p.m. Now, the place of most concern is still Tasman east and south of Motueka, but excluding Nelson City District. There is still a high chance of you being upgraded to a red warning with heavy rains through till 9 p.m. tonight. But not too much rain expected for the lower south, with it often cloudy today and with just showers. North or nor'easterlies will turn westerly for most tonight. Now, the heavy rain will be in the west and north of the island, easing much later this evening. Winds are strong everywhere with gusty northerlies for Ashburton easing this evening. Wet and likely windy here with strong wind watches in place from Taranaki to the Central Plateau, including inland Whanganui, plus a rain warning for Taranaki Maunga. Hawke's Bay, the only region not under a watch or warning here. Showers turn to rain with heavy falls for Bay of Plenty and Taupō with gale nor'easterlies. And a pretty miserable day for the upper north. There's heavy falls with a risk of localised downpours not easing till late tonight, and gale nor'easters gusting 80 or 90 k's, also not easing till this evening.
Heather, and that is it for us for this morning. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow from 7 o'clock, of course, here on Herald Now. More news in the meantime at nzherald.co.nz. Quick thank you to our partners this morning: Forsyth Bar, You Do It, Barkers, Max, 2 Degrees, GJ Gardner, Dilmar, and of course Noel Leeming. From all of the team at Herald Now, see you tomorrow.